Shall we have a quick conversation about how to pay off a large business debt fast? I think it's kind of important, right? So stick around till the end of today's conversation. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Studio Kiwi Show. How are you today? I hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. In today's conversation, I want to address the elephant in the room. How do you quickly pay off a large business debt? This is an important topic, and you need to pay off a large business debt, or all business debts for that matter, for several reasons. First, you want to save your good name. Reputation is all that matters in business, as you probably know. It's important to maintain and solidify the reputation that you have spent years, if not decades, establishing. You also want to save money because once you start defaulting on your loan, we all know the consequences, right? You have the adverse domino effect of APR, penalties, fees, and so on and so forth. You also want to establish good reputation in the industry vis-a-vis your suppliers, vis-a-vis your customers, vis-a-vis your rivals. It's important because if your rivals sort of feel like you're having financial problems, you're having cash flow problems, they might actually seize that opportunity and even gain market share on you. So you want to maintain that solidity, that strength vis-a-vis anybody in the industry. You also want to pay off any large business debt because you're trying to solidify morale within the company. It's very important. So folks, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to lay the analytical foundation for today's conversation. Before I give you the actual step-by-step, the methodology that you need to follow to quickly pay off a large business debt, I need to talk about a few things. You also want to pay off a large business debt, or any kind of debt for that matter, again, because you want to pay attention to your business credit. Very important, right? You want to send a positive signal to those three leading business credit bureaus. I'm talking about Dun & Bradstreet. I'm talking about Equifax and Experian. All of those things will help you lay a strong foundation for your business down the road. And it's very important to understand that in today's conversation, the step-by-step I'm giving you, you need to write things down. You need to track them. You can't just set a schedule or set a plan or strategy and not follow through. You got to have a step-by-step. You need to follow all the steps that I'm just going to talk to you about. You need to follow them religiously. So here is the step-by-step. The first step you need to do, you need to get an accurate picture of your finances, of your business's finances. You need to go through your financial statements. Very important. And I'm showing you right now a simple, so when we talk about financial statements, what am I talking about? I'm referring to three main financial statements. So you have a balance sheet, a statement of cash flows, and a statement of income, aka P&L or profit and loss statements. And those are very important. Let's first, you can see on the screen right now, I'm showing you a simple balance sheet. So here we have simple balance sheets. This is courtesy of a website called MicroCap. This is the source of this snapshot. And so you can see in the balance sheet, you have assets, liabilities, and you have stockholders' equity. For a small business, stockholders' equity will be owner's equity, okay? And this is another term for net worth. So stockholders' equity is the equivalent of a business's net worth. So you basically get that by subtracting liabilities from assets. Why do you have to go through your balance sheet? Because you want to have an idea of the kind of large loans you have and how long you've had them. And you also want to have an idea of the cash that you have, right? And then you go to income statement. You can see here, we are looking right now, income statement. This is the second screenshot here. You have revenues and then you have expenses. And the difference between revenues and expenses, that's your net income or loss. And then the third category have a statement of cash flow. I'm showing this to you on the screen also here. You have three categories. You have cash flow from operating activities, cash flow from investing activities, and cash flow from financing activities. You really want to pay attention to the balance sheet, folks. This is very important. Why? Because the balance sheet has, I would say, a treasure trove of information. Specifically, two things. On the asset side, particularly on the current asset side, you have cash. You need to know how much money you currently have. And then on the liability side, you need to see the debt, especially the large debt you are trying to pay off. That will tell you your financial situation, really. Okay, you also want to review your cash flow statements. When we talk about cash flow, you have to look at those three, the trifecta I just spoke about, right? Operating activities, financing activities, and investing activities. And the debts that we're talking about will be basically in the financing activities if it's a long-term debt. It will be in the operating activity if it's a short-term debt, if it's a vendor debt, if it's a supplier debt. Okay, so you want to pay attention to those. You also want to pay attention to the large expenses, where your money is going and where your money is coming from. The large expenses, you got to go to the income statement. Folks, I don't want to bore you. This is not a class on advanced accounting, but what I'm trying to say here is that there are gems of information that are buried in your financial statements, in your company's financial statements. If you don't have a knack for accounting, hire someone, right? Hire someone in-house, or you can outsource this function to a CPA, to a local CPA, but you got to look into your financial statements. Step number 2, if you're trying to pay off a large business debt quickly, you need to think about debt restructuring. So after you have a clear idea of your large debt by looking into your financial statements, logically, you got to look at the ways to restructure the debt, or at least to reduce it. So restructuring your debt, your business debt, can sometimes reduce how much you owe. It's worth giving any of the following methods I'm going to share with you a shot if they apply to your company's situation. So when in doubt, please ask your accountant or ask the CPA that you have hired for help on this front. Okay, so there are a few things you need to do. First of all, you got to go back to the loan documents, and you want to look for loopholes in your loans. Go back and check the terms of your loans. Knowing your loan terms can help you use extra cash strategically when you are paying off a large business debt. Very important. You want to negotiate terms with vendors. So can you extend payment terms on any outstanding invoices? If you remember earlier, I was just telling you, when we speak about large business debt, the debt can come from a traditional lender, a bank, a credit union. It can also come from a vendor, right? So you want to go back and negotiate the terms with the vendors. Can you renegotiate the terms of your loans in general with the bank, with the vendor? Try to consolidate your debt. Debt consolidation is where you take out one large, preferably low interest loan to pay off several smaller business loans. And this really can simplify your monthly finances and generally carries a lower interest rate than other loans. I'm not even talking about the accounting side, right? Because instead of tracking the multiple loans, you're only tracking one. And the accounting entries are even easier, okay? And if need be, again, my point here is that I'm giving you ideas, I'm giving you suggestions, but if you don't have the expertise in-house, don't hesitate to hire an expert. I guarantee it. It's a lot cheaper to hire someone who knows what they're doing than you trying to get into that game by yourself if you have no idea how the game is played. If you have no idea how the rules, what the rules of the game are, it's better to hire someone who knows how to play the game, all right? Especially if we're talking about large business debt. For me, large means 6 digits minimum, 100,000 all the way to 10 million, all right? So you want to hire a debt restructuring firm if needed. Okay, so for a fee, this firm can negotiate with collection agencies and creditors on your behalf in order to extend or change your existing credit agreements. You can also use a credit card, a balance transfer business credit card, for example, right? If that suits your situation, that could be a great idea. Also, from time to time, you have business credit cards such as Citi, Business Advantage, or Bank of America, or Capital One. They have those offers where they will transfer your debt for about 18 months or 12 months. That's pretty cool. So be on the lookout for that. Step number 3. So after getting a clear financial picture of your business and thinking about debt restructuring, I want you to really focus now on budgeting. You want to prioritize budgeting. Very important. And there are a few things you can do here. You want to review your budget. Think about it. Your goal, your ultimate goal is to do what? You want to pay off a large business debt. So budgeting should be the fulcrum, should be the cornerstone of your strategy. In other words, you want to go back into all those little nitty numbers and see who is eating away, who is eating your cash away, and who is bringing the cash in. In other words, budgeting has to be in relationship with your financial statements. In other words, all the numbers that are coming into your budget are actually coming from your financial statements. So you want to review your budget. If you don't have a budget, now is the time to create one. I think that every business, small or big or medium, doesn't matter. Even if you're a single member LLC or a single member business, a one person business, you need to have a budget. If this is a topic that interests the majority of our viewers, we will actually commit an entire show on going deeper into that topic, but you need to review your budget, okay? And if your business has multiple clients or sources of revenue, you want to categorize income and expenses by type so you understand which type of your business are the most profitable. And you can also use apps. And also try to create a strict monthly budget. So if you don't, you can either review your current budget, you can transform it, you can, let's say a lot of small businesses have quarterly budgets. You can maybe bring it to a monthly budget or a weekly budget. That way you can track, you can monitor progress ASAP and every single day. You also want to think about paying off the smallest debts first. Now, it's all about your strategy. What we've seen, and I will speak about that later on when we go about the avalanche versus the snowball strategy. But there are two schools of thoughts when it comes to tackling a large business debt. Some people will tell you in terms of your budget to focus on the small business debts, and others will tell you to focus on the larger debts. It's all about what works for you. Depending on your cash flow situation, depending on your business, depending on the vision that you have for your business, you might want to use one strategy over the other. It's all about your plan. Okay, if you are in a high growth industry, for example, where you need cash to scale, to grow, you can't be using all the cash just to pay off debts. But if you are in a slow industry, what I call a slow, quote unquote, lethargic industry, where it's just a cash cow, you're getting the money, there's no real growth, but you're getting the money it's more like a constant revenue generation, then you might want to allocate more cash to paying off whatever large debts you currently have. It's all about the industry you're in. All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another section of the Awesome Sweaty Kiwi Show. I'm still having a conversation with you about how to pay off a large business debt. So step number one, you get a clear picture, financial picture. Number two, you want to think about restructuring the debt. Number three, you want to prioritize budgeting, very important. And step number four, you need to now think about generating extra cash. This is critical, folks, because if your goal is to pay off a large business debt, that means that you got to find the extra cash elsewhere. And that cash can either come from a reduction of expenses or an increase of revenue, right? That's the duality you have to focus on. So when we think about increasing revenue can be increased. Net income can be increased by increasing revenue or reducing expenses. So think about reducing your spending. You need to know your numbers inside out. When I'm talking about numbers here, I'm talking about cost of your cost of materials, supplies, labor, office supplies, rent, car lease, transportation, marketing, and everything else your company spends money on. You got to have a clear idea. And where do you get that number? You get that number from your income statement, aka P&L, profit and loss statement. This is where you get a razor sharp understanding of what's going on in your business, my friend. This is what it is. You also need to think about automating your debt payments. You need to re-examine your margins. Can you increase them? Can you bump up the price by 5%, 3%, 10%? You also have to think about selling then leasing. Instead of buying, just consider leasing. you want to cut cost. Very important. You want to really, I'm not asking you to downsize too much, but you got to cut cost. If you are in emergency and your goal and your priority and everything you breathe for is to pay off a large business debt, you got to take all initiatives that will help you achieve that goal. It's just simple logic, right? So first thing, you need to reduce your spending when it comes to generating cash. Second thing is you need to generate extra income. And there are a lot of ways you can do this. You can diversify, for example. If you can probably add an additional product or service to your current portfolio. You can raise your prices. First, just make sure that you are pretty sure about how much more your current clientele can absorb. Try upselling. Upselling is very important. You can sell more to your existing clients. Can you offer any incentives or bundle your existing products or services to entice existing clients to buy more from you? Think about checking your inventory, for example. If stagnant inventory is choking up your cash flow, see if you can just adjust your purchasing habits or switch to suppliers that offer rights of return for unsold good. Okay, think about getting into other industries, for example. And you can sell off unused assets and inventory also. This could be a good opportunity. And last but not the least, I want you to think laterally. In other words, can you lease out a portion of your office to another business? Can you consider, for example, co-working space, for example? What else can you do to make quick financial gain? That's the kind of lateral thinking I want you to get yourself into. Get creative and generate additional revenue from your existing assets. Step number 5, folks. So we've talked about getting a clear financial picture, debt restructuring, right? Debt restructuring, budgeting priorities, cash generation. Now I want to talk to you about debt reduction strategies. Okay, so when we talk about paying off a large business loan, a large business debt, the fulcrum, the cornerstone, the epicenter of our discussion should be on debt reduction, right? Now, when we speak about debt reduction, there are 4 main strategies. So you need to pick one that works for you. And it also depends on how much you owe, your current cash flow, and in many ways, your willpower, your determination, your persistence. So we have the Spartan strategy, the percentage strategy, the avalanche strategy, and the snowball strategy. Let's get into details here. For the Spartan strategy, you create an essentials only spending plan and you outline what you will not spend money on until your debt is paid off. It's really hard to stick to if you are more of a spender than a saver. And then you have the percentage strategy. Here, you dedicate X% of your profits to paying off extra debt. So this is something that you have to think about. And then you have the avalanche strategy. So this is where you choose a balance to tackle. In other words, you have a long series of debts, and you're just choosing one, and you're going with the smaller you go with the debt that has the highest interest rate. Yeah, the avalanche is when you go with you first want to tackle the debt with the highest interest rate. And then you have the snowball strategy, which was popularized by personal finance guru Dave Ramsey, right? So basically the snowball effect is called so because you start with the smallest debt and you work your way to the biggest one, like a snowball gathering speed as it rolls down a hill. Okay, and you need to set a get out of debt timeline. I don't care which strategy you choose, but one thing that's very important is that you need to set a get out of debt timeline. You need to tell yourself, I want to get out of debt by 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. You need to track your plan every single month. You need to involve your team. It's very important to understand that the team is on board. The team has a buy-in. The team understands the criticality of paying off the large business debt. And you also need to set accountability metrics. In other words, who is responsible in the team for example, increasing revenue? Who is responsible in the team for reducing expenses? Who is responsible in the team for making sure that you stick to the budget? This is the kind of accountability metrics you need to create and assign people to. Step number 6, folks. Now is the time to come up with what we call a fresh perspective. You need to create the new company, quote unquote, the new company from a financial perspective, a company that understands better how to limit debt, how to generate more cash flow, how to actually keep your company's DTI, your debt to income ratio, to a certain level. Okay, so you want to make a new business budget. You need to change the kind of behavior, the kind of tactics, the kind of operational model that got you into a large debt in the first place. All right, so this is where you need to create a new business budget. You want to get crystal clear financial statements every month. Now, a lot of experts will tell you, listen, you want to get financial statements every single month. I say you want to get those financial statements every single week, my friend, every single week. If your goal is to pay off a large business debt fast, you better really get there and see exactly what's going on in your financials. So if there is a problem, let's say sales are going down or expenses are going up, you can fix it quickly instead of waiting for a quarter or a month to verify what's going on in your business. You want to get on that bandwagon ASAP and fix whatever problems you see creeping out or creeping up. Okay. You also want to make expense reduction a permanent goal. Very important. When you create a new business budget, you want to assign, I was talking earlier about accountability metrics. You want to assign to a person in the team the goal of expense reduction, and that goal has to be permanent. This is not a fashion metric. This is permanent. It has to be at the core of your business. You want to ingrain in your team the ability and the willingness to negotiate with vendors, to continue on that track of expense management, to eliminate waste. Right? You want to get everything where you want to get to a certain point where your processes, your business processes are what? They are cost effective. That's the key word here, cost effective. You want to bring vendors into the whole bandwagon. You want to negotiate better terms with new vendors. You want to get the better trade lines. Instead of net 15, net 30, you go to net 60, net 90. All right. And don't forget to get help on an ongoing basis. And if your debt is overwhelming and you're worried about falling behind on payments, it can be helpful to get advice from a neutral third party, right? And you can, for example, you can reach out to experts at your local Small Business Development Center, the SBDC. You also have SCORE. You also have the Women's Business Center, or you also have the Veterans Business Outreach Center. This is pretty cool, and all those resources are available for free. If you go to the SBA websites, the Small Business Administration's website, you get all that info. Or you can reach out to your local Chamber of Commerce for more information. Okay, so that's the idea. All right, folks, this was a conversation today about how to pay off a large business debt quickly. And I gave you the whole 9 yards, the step-by-step you need. Number one, let's just do a quick recap here. Number one, you want to get a clearer financial picture. Number two, you want to think about restructuring debts. Number three, think about prioritizing budgeting. Number four, cash generation is important. Number five, debt reduction strategies should be the fulcrum of your debt repayment tactic. And number six, think about implementing a fresher perspective. Thank you so much for your attention, folks. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.